Well, hello and welcome back for another fly time video. And today I'm going to be tying up one of these pearl butt emergers, but on a jig hook. So I've used this style of fly for a fair few years, but it wasn't until last season that I was shown the idea of tying it on a jig hook, and I really like them. Certainly it's a lot easier in terms of putting this feather on the front to keep everything in line without it covering the eye. That of course makes it much easier to tie on for us cack-handed people. And the jig hooks are, what are they? Let's say 1x strong wire, so fairly heavy, and that helps for it to fish this way. These emerger patterns, or this type, sort of shuttlecock type thing, they tend to attract the fish because the fish know that they're not going to fly away. It's not like a high riding dun. So when you get these flies that are in the act of emergence, or the crippled flies, or if they're a spent spinner, anything where the fish knows it's like a guaranteed meal, that's why they're so effective. And this slightly heavier gauge hook ensures that it always fishes like this, it's not floating on the top. One little tip when you come to fish them, I always cover over, I'm going to put it there, always cover over the fly with your fingers whilst you apply the floatant to the CDC. You don't want to get any on the body and make it float. Right, so for this I'm using a fastener. It's a size 16. As I said, it's 1x strong wire. And I've got some olive thread. This is 12/0 Benici thread. So I'm just going to put a bit of wax on it. I tend to break off a piece of wax about the size of a shirt button, rub it between my fingers to get it a bit warmer, then put it through the tying silk. Tying silk, that's showing my age, isn't it? When I first started this with my dad's kit, it was all Purcell's gossamer silk. Right, I'm just going to introduce that about where the bend is. Go down the shank a bit. And then come back up to tie in the CDC wing. And I'm using 3 plumes for this. And I've got some cooksil fly tying. And this is the natural Mallard. So I'm told that the natural feather has more of the CDC oil in it that makes it float. I don't know how true that is. You can only go by what you're told, can't you? Right, pinch and loop that there. Now you can pull on this a bit if you want to make it shorter, but I think I've got that right first time. So what I'm going to do now is cut off one of these feathers and then tie the other 2 down. And then cut off another one of the feathers and tie that one down. Hopefully by doing it this way we'll get a nice tapered body. Just take it slightly round the bend. And then for the pearl butt, I've got some Mallard pearl, it's number 16. I'm going to put about 4 or 5 turns of this on. And for the body, I've got a goose dyed olive. I've just soaked this in a little dish of water because it can be quite brittle to use, I find sometimes. So I'm just going to use a bit of tissue just to pat that off. And hopefully you can see there's like a little notch in this feather underneath here. If we have that facing down, then we should get the nice rib along the top. Sort of throws up these little tiny hairs. Makes it look like the body of a fly. Doesn't matter if you do it the other way. You'll just get a smooth body. How much room have we got here? Maybe one more turn. And as with all my hell bodies, I'm going to put a bit of varnish on the thread first. I don't find these things to be the easiest things to work with, so I'm going to use some hackle pliers to try and make it behave. First turns you can get on quite nice, but then as it gets thicker, as you get towards the end, it can start to get a bit tricky. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead there and tie that off. And then just to cover up this bit of stalk at the front here, I'm going to put a little bit of dubbing on. You could just whip finish there and it would be absolutely fine, but I'm going to use some of this Beaver Plus dubbing, and that's in a light olive. Won't need very much. Come in front of this wing down onto where the bead would be and put the whip finish on there. And I'm not going to try and put any head cement on this because I don't want it to go into the CDC, so I'll probably just go for another one of those whip finishes. Beauty of tying your own flies, if you can sort of do what you want, can't you? There are no rules. There we are, nice and tight. Trim that off. Just make that sit back in line. There we are, and that's it. Nice easy one to tie. Well, apart from the biot body, of course. Variations you can do. This is on a size 18 here, and that's got a peacock quill dyed olive body for that. That's actually much easier to work with than the goose biot. And then a little fly I tied up last year when I found those tiny dark olives hatching on my early morning on the River Yeo, and this is on a size 20, and that's just black tying thread. Very easy to tie, but very effective. Caught a few trout on that. Right, well, I hope that's been of interest. I would definitely say put some of these definitely in your box. I went for a terrible patch last season where I just couldn't seem to hook anything, and yet changed over to one of these and I had 4 in 4 casts. Really upped my confidence. So I shall catch you next time.